Hello there survivors and welcome back to another build tutorial in ARK Survival Ascended. Today we're building this relatively simple Viking Hall to call home if you want to go for those Viking vibes, especially of course very fitting on the brand new Ragnarok map. It's a relatively simple build. You mostly need wood and some thatch and a little bit of stone for the foundation, so it shouldn't be too hard to get this going quite early on, but it is big enough to house some of your smaller to medium-sized creatures on the inside, so early on you only need this to keep you and your tames safe. Of course you can build this without needing any mods or any skins and it will still look relatively nice, but if you want to go for the full experience and the look you're seeing right now, I've used the new premium Viking Builder skins that not only give your build new cool Viking textures, but most importantly add a bunch of decoration options to really bring your build to life and really make yourself feel like a proper Viking. As always, if you enjoy seeing these build tutorials and you want to see more, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to leave suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. We will of course start out with the foundation, so we want to place down our foundation just like this and make it 6 wide in total, and then we'll go around the corner making this 3 wide on the outside, adding 1 more, and then 2 on this side, so 2 here, 3 over there, and then over here we can continue making this 4 in total, bringing this back in, so again these 2, and then repeat the same thing. So this is going to be 3 here on the outside. That means this is going to be 6 wide again, so that should line up with what we started with. And then over here we want to again make this 3 wide, then add this coming out with 2, make this 4 wide in total, and then of course bringing it back around so that we have the whole foundation. And that means we can then start to fill in this foundation from one side to the other, making sure that we have the foundation we need to build the rest of the building. So we'll just go and fill this all in from one side to the other. There we go. So we have the main big hall as well as these side buildings that we'll use as the entrances. And then actually here on the front we want to take out our ceilings. We want to go across it just like this and bring it out by 1 over here and 1 over there as well. We can then take out our actual stairs and have a little staircase right over here. We can have some pillars underneath these corners to support this little walkway. And then of course we want to have some half pillars in these places as well to get the design going a bit more. Then we can bring out our railings at those around these sections to make this little front porch basically nice and secure. And there we are. Then we can bring out our wooden beams. We can start right over here and start going around the sides of the building just like this. So this is going to be the back of the building. And here we'll leave the middle to open, then continue over here on this side. If this is going to be the front, we'll leave the middle to open because that's going to be a dino gate. And then we'll go around the rest again just like this. We'll change to the half beams, add 2 of them here so that we still have an entrance in the middle. And we'll do the same thing here on the other side as well. Then we can actually take out our stone pillars and add them on the corners of the building as a little bit of extra support. So we want to just go around and do that for all of these corners to add a little bit of extra detail as well as some extra supports. We can have them there too, and then all of those corners. Then we can actually bring out our normal wooden pillars as well. We kind of want to have a few of those extra here on the side as little extra details. Same thing over here. And same thing over on that side too. And you can actually add them here for this door too, because we already have a porch on that side, but nothing on this side. Now, depending on how your landscaping is, you might or might not be able to add a little bit of detail in, but basically you want to go cycle through these snap points here until you get this one. And we'll do the same thing over here. just as a little bit of extra detail. And depending on your landscape, you could choose a steeper arch, of course, but most likely it won't be much more than this. And this is just to give a little bit of extra detail and supports to the side of the building. I think it is a quite nice looking addition, so we'll do that for all of these little wooden extra pillars that we added to the side. There we go. So just a few more over here. And one more over there. Oh, you can actually see this one went steeper, so we want to make sure that we all have the same slopes. And for my landscape, I don't think I need it as steep over here, so probably keep it the same, just like that. And then we can also add them on the corners here, so where we have the stone pillars. So we want to kind of extend these additions that we made by the one on the pillar to finish that design, keeping the same slopes, of course, because otherwise it's going to look silly. So whatever it allows you to do, pick the same slope for all of them, whether that is this one that I'm using or slightly steeper. Kind of depends on the height of the foundation that you used. Then here on the front, we also want to add in some stairs, so we can actually get up here, and then we can place in the gate itself. So yeah, we want to have this in the middle. Sometimes I like to snap these the other way around because they stick out a little bit more this way and make the wall in general less flat. We want to add in the gate itself, of course, too. And then here on the corners, we want to raise it up by 2 pillars in total. So the same thing over there. Then we can take out our wood quarter walls, have 2 of them right in these corners, the alternative variant above them, just like that. And then we can take out the walls to add in some windows in the middle. Now, if you're using the Viking skins, you don't have to add a window to it. We'll use the rounded variant of the wall to get some really nice windows. But of course, otherwise, you probably do want to add in some windows themselves, just as extra detailing, especially once you open them, of course, it makes the walls less flat. Then we can raise up the next layer with some walls like this, and then also have a wall right next to it. We'll take out our slope walls. We'll add 2 on top of them, just like so. And then we want to bring out a beam going across from one side to the next. And we can have some pillars right over there. The middle, we still just want to have a normal wall. And then finish this shape by adding 2 more slope walls on top. So it's very simple this side. Very nice and basic. Then here on this side entrance where we have the porch, we want to focus on these walls here at the side. We want to place in those walls just like this, and then the next layer you can also fill in with the full walls. Then once again, we want to have a window in the middle. Using the Viking Builder's cosmetic, you don't need anything in there, but otherwise you probably want to at least add the windows in there. And especially, of course, once you open them, that always provides a little bit of extra depth and detailing to your build. Then of course here we want to have some pillars going up, the same thing here on that corner to kind of strengthen these walls and add some details that way. And what we also want to do is bring out some slope walls and add them right in these corners. Then here in the front, we want to have a pillar there. We want to have 2 pillars next to the doorway and another pillar right on this corner. We want to take out our quarter walls, start with these bottom corners, then the alternative variant right over there to make the shapes for the windows. We then also want to take out the normal variants again to place 2 over here and the alternative ones right above them. Then here in the side, we can add in those windows. Once again, if you're using the Viking Builder's cosmetics, you won't need any actual windows in there, but otherwise you might want to add them in for an extra bit of detail. And then for this entrance, we are also going to have 2 windows, but we'll always have these in there. Even for the Viking skins, we're going to use the variant where these work very well to once again get a little bit more depth by opening up those windows themselves. Then of course it's time to shape this side of the building a little bit more. So we'll have slope walls going up from these corners just like this. Of course we'll have full walls in between, And then, of course, finishing that shape over there. And as a little bit of extra detail, we want to have a beam going across over this way. And then we'll have some pillars right along there to add some extra supports to this place. Of course, means we can take out a thatch roof. We can add 2 of them in here, just like that. And then 2 of them over here as well. We'll have 2 up here, just to kind of shape this entrance. And then there's actually 2 ways to go about this. If you're using the Viking skins, we can actually have just railings along the edge here, because there's a variant to change them in a little eave that will stick out over the outside of the roof. But even without needing any skins, you can of course use the vanilla variant as well by just going out a little further. You can also still do this with the Viking skins, of course. Just means that you have a little bit more of an overlap. The same thing can be done here on the outside with the Viking Builder skins. You can just have some beams going across, which you can use as a little overhang on the outside. And in vanilla, you could of course add these extra roof pieces, but as you can see, they stick out quite far, so you would cover up your windows a little bit. So I probably would just leave it as is. And then of course here down in the middle, we want to make sure that we add in a nice doorway. So we want to fit that right here in the middle and add in the door itself so that we have an entrance to the side. Then we can go to the other side and we can kind of repeat what we've done on the opposite one. So we have these pillars. We'll also have the pillars on those corners. And of course, we can get started with placing in our walls shaped like that. And then also shaped like this over here. Then, of course, we can have a little staircase right in the middle. But they're not going to have a porch here, just the normal little stairs. We can have a window right over there, same over here, and of course adding in the windows unless you're using the Viking skins. Then for the front here, of course, we want to place down our quarter walls just like that over here too. Change to the alternative one and place them on top of these just like that. And of course we also want to have our pillars going up over there. Then we want to bring out a window. 1 and 2 over there. Of course, here we want to fit one right between. Same over there. With the Viking skins, you wouldn't need any windows here, as I said on the other side. But without it, you probably want to do that. And then over here, you would do them anyway, because we use another variant for windows on this side. So we have a nice little entrance here. Then we want to take out our beam going across from one side to the other here, so just like that, crossing nicely. And then of course we can also raise up the rest of the shape, so we can add in some slope walls, then we can have some full walls and finish this shape like that, adding some more slope walls like so over there as well. And then of course taking out our pillars, adding them right there and right here. And then we can once again start on the roof. So we want to snap 2 here, 2 up there as well. Same thing here, of course. On the other side, taking out our quarter pieces, adding them right here in the front, as well as along the back here. And then, of course, all the way at the front here, we want to make sure that we add in the doorway and the actual door to create another little entrance to the building. Then here on the inside, we can actually add in pillars right over there. Same thing on the other side to add in a little bit of support. We then want to take out our thin beams, have it going across just like this on both sides. And for some extra details, I like to add in some railings going along these sides. I'm not entirely sure if this would be possible on official, but it's just to add a little bit of extra details to these side additions to the main hall here. Then of course we have another side of the building right over here. We want to start by adding 3 pillars on these spots, so just after a gap of 1, and then another one right there in the middle. We'll take out our quarter walls and we'll have 1, 2, 3 and 4, then the other variant right above those, and then we can take out our walls, change them to the windows, and add 4 of them in. Again, these won't need any windows in there if you're using the Viking skins, because we'll use the rounded variant again. But otherwise, you might want to add them in just as a little bit of extra detail. Then, of course, we want to have the normal walls, and we can start raising this up to the next level all the way across. And, of course, filling in this level just as well. Then we'll have our slope walls going up one more time over here as well. Then we want to have these temporary pieces so that we can do the top part. We want to add in the pillars right over there, and then a beam going across from one side to the other, and then we should be able to take out the temporary part right there. We can then also add in the beam going across the top, as well as the final pillar connecting all the way back to the bottom or the top of the roof. And then if you're using the Viking Builder's cosmetic, you want to add a little beam sticking out like this, because there's a nice variant to make like a little crane hauling some goods to the inside. Then it's time to start a little bit of a stable area, or like at least a roof area here at the back. We want to have some temporary pillars or beams coming out from these pillars. Then we want to change them to the pillars themselves and add them in over here. So from the beam going back to the bottom for all of these. Then we can take out the beams. It might destroy these pillars, so you might want to pick up the pillars first, and we can then place them back. We should have these pillars nicely in the right spots now to build a little bit of a little overhang for some extra storage, or just parking some of your tames. What you want to do is you want to take out your ramps, start adding them in along the side just like that, taking out your quarter pieces and adding those along the edge to kind of extend this a little bit further to make a nice little roof here at the back, just to park some things, or just to add a little bit of storage on the outside, or whatever you want to use it for. And it also breaks up this big wall, of course. We also want to take out the railings, add some along here for some extra support beams, just to look a little bit nicer. Then for the interior of the hall, we want to start all the way back here where we have the pillars. Go in by 2, then add 3 of them yourself. Leave another gap of 2 before we add another one, another gap of 2, and another gap of 2. So the same thing is going to be on the other side. So we just want to have these pillars to support the next layer of the build again. So we want to bring in all of these pillars just like that. Then we can actually bring out our beams and connect these pillars between each other so that we get a nice support. We only want to do it between each other, so not all the way over to the walls on the ends of the hall. So just between the pillars themselves. Then it's time for some infrastructure on the inside. We want to start over here, add in these 4 ceilings, then 2 more over here. Then we take out quarter ceilings, 2 of them alongside, and then following this shape just like so, to create a little gap where we can add in our stairs. We want to take out our quarter stairs, and we'll start going down to the bottom as far as we can. So just about here. This is where we then add in a little quarter ceiling, and then we can bring the stairs down the rest of the way, and they should end right alongside in this corner, so we can still go up and down a little bit. Now, to add in some nice pillars alongside of these, or the railings alongside of these, you want to have a temporary big pillar right over there. We'll do the same thing on the top layer here, so some big pillars there. We want to add in some thin half pillars on these places. That's the ones we actually want, but right now we can't snap railings to them, because you'll see that the quarter railings or even the full railings won't snap to the stairs or even to these smaller ones yet. So what you want to do is right over here, you want to bring out your railing. You want to go through all the snap points until you get the right one going down the stairs, and we want to do that for the second part as well. Same over here. So we bring down these railings until we get the right snap point. This one you might not be able to place unofficial because it's technically going through that pillar. I don't know if that would allow unofficial, and unfortunately half railings right now can't be on an angle yet. But yeah, then we want to do the same thing over here, and we have all of the railings in place. So now we half railing right there to finish that part off, and then one over here as well as this one here. Then of course the half pillar here, we should be able to take out these ones now because we've already snapped everything, so we can replace them. And then this one as well, and we have a nice little staircase to get up to the next layer of the building, which we want to then continue first just along the side of this all the way to the front here, crossing around the other side just like this, and all the way back round. We want to fill in that layer too. Now we do want to have a little bit of a gap here to let the smoke come up, but we want to make that a little bit smaller. So 2 more ceilings here, and then some quarter ceilings along the side of both of these to create this little gap. We can then actually take out our beams, and we want to have some going along the side here, as well as connecting one end to the other, just like this. Take out our railings, of course, add them around, and we can even add in some little half pillars around the corners to make this look even nicer. Then here on these corners, we want to add in a pillar that is 1 high, just like this. And then we want to raise up these pillars by 1 as well, so all the way over the entire side. Then this side we can just fill in completely with walls, as well as these middle ones, and then add slope walls to get the shape in place. This one here on the front, of course, is going to be slightly different. We will start adding in these walls, so actually we can take out at least the pillar to save a little bit of structures, and then just fill in the shape like this, and of course have a little doorway right there so you can enter the room, adding in the slope walls again. There we go. And then you can of course also add in an actual door there so that you could close off the extra room here at the top. Along the side we want to start with some quarter walls. First variation first, along the bottom edges of all of this, so we want to just bring those across. Same thing over here, all the way alongside. Then of course the alternative variant, which is going to be placed on top. There we go. Same over here, filling in these walls, basically meaning that we can have a nice window in the middle. Again, for the Viking skin we use the rounded off version, so we don't necessarily need to add in the windows inside, but otherwise you definitely want to do that for some extra details, of course. But first let's place them all in. But yeah, if you do not have the Viking cosmetic, you probably want to just go around and add these in, because then when you open them they will provide a little bit of extra depth and detail on the side of the building. We can then also take out our beams, and we can have one going across this front side here too. Then we can take out our railings. We can flip them upside down, have one coming across here, one coming across the bottom here, and we want to make sure that it's from one pillar to the next. So again, same over here, crossing from one side to the other, and then the last one is right over there, just like this, just to add a little bit of extra details and supports to the place. And now that all of those things are in place, it's definitely time to get started on the rest of the roof. So we want to take out our thatched roofs again, of course, and start filling in this shape just like so, bringing this all the way up there, just leaving it open for now, continuing it over on this side, and bringing the roof all the way up over here. For these corners, of course, we want to take out our corner pieces, and then it should nicely link back up with the front addition that we already made. Then we can go to the other side of the building and kind of just continue to fill in these roofs just as we did on the other side of the building. So just like this, again, leave that open, of course, continue over here, fill them all in just like that. Of course, again, taking out these corner pieces, making sure that these connect very nicely, creating a nice effect. And then of course we can take out or quarter roof pieces. You can just go along the outside like this. If you're using the Viking Builder's cosmetic, you can also have the railings on top of here and then use the skins and the variants to get a little bit of a smaller overhang. But you can also just do this and then still skin all of it. We, of course, also want to do this on the outside here to create a little bit of a lip. You probably should be able to go about here. I don't think this last one would be possible with official settings, but otherwise, definitely give it a go. We can do this all the way to the end, and of course also here along the outside of the build, bringing it all the way up, and of course doing the exact same thing here on the other side, just like that, and of course adding this little detail along the edges too, all the way through. Same over here, bringing this just all the way alongside the entire building to create a nice lovely roof like this. Then we can bring out our beams, have them go across the top over here, and then of course ending in it with a little half beam. There we go, which is already starting to form a pretty nice Viking hall. And one thing you can do here on the edge, you could also use the quarter ramps if you're using the Viking Builder's cosmetic, because then you can turn it into the thatch look again to make it match the rest of the roof. Unfortunately, on vanilla, of course, quarter ramp pieces do not look like actual roof pieces. Then we aren't done quite yet. So here on the top, of course, we want to continue. So once again, we're going to add in the roof pieces along the side for the little overhang, just like this. We kind of also want to do this along the side. Again, you could use the ramps here, especially if you're going to use the builder skin, but without it, it's better to just use these ones, because otherwise, again, it doesn't match the textures, which I still think is a big thing that we need in the vanilla structures, because sometimes you want to just match that with your roof, and it's a lot nicer if you can just do the exact same texture and then create those little curved feelings. So we want to have this as a little bit of a overhang around the outside. Then we want to take out the full roof pieces, add them in like this. So we'll start from the corners, fill in the entire bottom, and then add these two. Leave the middle two, we'll leave those out for now, and then we can do the same thing here on the other side of the building. Start filling this all in just like that. Then we want to change to the quarter roof pieces. There we go. We make a tiny little shape like this. So we'll do the other side as well. And of course, we still need to find a little way to let out the smoke. So what we want to do is take out our little half thin pillars, add them right along these corners like that. There we go. Then take out our thin beam, have them in the middle, just to add a little bit more detail there. And then again, we can take out those little quarter pieces to make a tiny roof on top of this, which should let the smoke out on the sides. And for a little additional detail, we can add in a railing just over there on both sides, just to add a little bit of detail. And actually, for the Viking Builder skins, what you could do, have a beam here and change it to the variant so that it creates a little bit of an eave, a little bit of an overhang on the outside. But otherwise, this is just fine. And we can, of course, add in two of these half beams on top just to add a little bit of detail in. Speaking of those beams, of course, we also want to make sure we have them on top of the rest of the roof. So two beams going on like this, then a half beam at both ends to get the whole place in shape. And then we have a pretty nice looking roof. Then here on the inside, of course, we want to take out our railings again. We want to have railings just around here, so leading up to the pillars, kind of connects to make it look like supports. Same thing over here. We want to have those go down like this. Also over there, bring in the supports, along these sides as well, so that we have a full Viking hall with nice supports along the side as extra details. And then there's a few little extra details we can add alongside the roofs. What I really like is adding in some of these railings along the side of that building as some extra supports, and to break up the roof a little bit. So we'll do that for both sides, just like that. Kind of also matches, of course, the ones we have down below. Kind of breaks up the roof a little bit more. And then some few minor extra details that we can add in the end is, of course, along the tops of the roofs, we kind of want to add in these shapes to kind of give them a little bit more interest. And if you want to go for something more subtle, we of course now also have these variants instead that you could use just as some little bit of end decoration. If you're going to use the Viking Builder cosmetic, you probably want to go for this, and I'll show you exactly why in a minute. You probably also want to place it on this pillar instead, because we're going to have something else right at the end. And that is how you get this Viking Hall together. Quite nice build, not too difficult to get these materials, so you should be able to get these pretty early on in your playthrough without too many issues. Then if we look at the full variant that we have here with the Viking Builder skins, there's a few things to note. I've rounded out these doors. This is a variant of both the door itself as well as the doorway to get some really rounded doors. So we have the big windows here with the actual shutters, which looks quite nice. And then for most of these other windows, it's all these rounded variant because you don't necessarily need anything in there, and I really like the rounded addition to a build because it just makes it a little bit more exciting than what we normally are aware of. As I said, these ramp pieces, you can still make it look like full thatch using the cosmetics, which is of course really nice. Here you can see these little eaves around the outside of the roof that are done with the railings and then skinning them. And of course the biggest change is adding in all these statues that are part of this cosmetic. There's a specific item that you have, the statues. They start looking out like this, and they're placed on big deco boxes. So there's a big deco box here. All I did was add a little half beam, take out the pillar that is normally there, and then add the box in the right place. You might have to remove some of the other pieces temporarily just so that you can place it right in the middle. Then for these pieces, that's also a big deco box placed right against the end here so that we have these nice things. And again, these start out looking like this and then changing the variant. We've done the same thing along the other sides of the roofs. Again, these are just two big deco boxes trying to get as close to the little edge to get these little details in place. And the same thing over here. What you do is you place the deco box first, and then you add in the rest of the pieces behind it, and it works quite well to add in some extra Viking details. And as I said, if you're using these cosmetics, you want to place these slope walls a little bit further back, so on the full beam, and then you want to have the nice dragon piece at the end to just get that really cool effect. And also I've did a little bit of a change. Of course, I removed the slope wall here, and instead I added these two boxes to just get this little cooler effect going on. But yeah, there's some small additions that you can make with those skins, as well as of course adding in some of these banners, the flags, the shields, stuff like that, and just the textures in general. They look really cool and fit the Viking vibe quite well. So yeah, if we take a little bit of a tour, you can see details around with these ships out about, of course the dragon statues, the campfires turned into braziers, statues in the front, a little bit of extra decoration. These are actually railings, so there's an extra railing on top. Turn that into a variant and you get the netting coming down, which is quite cool to see. So yeah, a little bit of the details all around us. We have a water tank, metal water tank turned into a little water well. Bunch of other decorations around just to liven up the place. Bunch of storage, wood choppings and everything to really add life to it. And as I said, this pillar that sticks out, really cool addition to make it look like you're hauling in some cargo into the build. And yeah, more decorations all the way around. Another entrance here, but of course the main entrance right here to the Viking Hall. Then you can see right here in the middle, this is actually the cooker and the industrial grill, which are really good additions for a Viking Hall. Of course, the nice flames in the middles, there's chairs all around us, there's other crafting stations here too with cool Viking cosmetics. We have a little bit of storage chests here, which are quite cool. And of course, the main table with lovely decorations that you can add. All the variations and options that are available in this skin. It's quite a lot that you have. We have up here a little bit more storage, and then we have a little bedroom up here as well with plenty of room actually, and a nice cozy bed to sleep in. So yeah, that's kind of how I would would change the skins, would change the look, and of course to bring life to it with all the decorations. There we go. That was it for this build tutorial. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel of course if you haven't already, and I hope to see you around again in the next video or stream. For now, goodbye.